Welcome back, dear friends, at another exciting session of MCQs on your favorite channel for English literature, Lit E-City. Dear friends, in today's session, we are going to discuss some questions related with recent trends in literary theory and cultural studies. We will cover topics like television studies, disability studies, social networks, discourse network, and so many concepts and writers and terms which you are bound to find in your coming paper. So let's start with our first question. The Foundations of Aesthetics, published in 1992, presents a concise survey of 16 ways to understand the word beauty. You can look at the, we can say, sophisticated and detailed presentation of this book. Now, the question is, who is or who are the author or authors of this, a very, very important text? Is it Ogden Nash, I.A. Richards, or James Wood? So your options are first and second, Ogden and Richards. Both were very close friends. Or is it Ogden and James Wood? Or is it all of the above? All three these contributed to this particular book, or second and third? Dear friends, Ogden Nash and I.A. Richards, they have published few books together, but this book is written by all of these three: Ogden Nash, I.A. Richards, and James Wood. If we talk about the books, I.A. Richards and both his colleagues, Charles Ogden Nash and James Wood, they basically lay out a new theory of harmony and balance in work of literature. Harmony is the key word. The two mingle with an audience's psychological impulses in order to determine how the work is perceived. In fact, we can say it is the foundation text of new criticism also, because it talks about this key term, harmony, which we find many times in new criticism. Moving ahead with our second question is Stigma, published in 1963, elaborated the notion of bodily stigma associated with spoiled identity. It is a landmark work in the field of disability studies, which talk about the way world perceive physically and mentally disabled persons. Who is the writer of this path-breaking work? Is it Erving Goffman, or second option, Erving Zola? Third option is Paul Longmore, and the last option is Carol Gill. My dear friends, all of these are somehow associated with the field of disability studies, but we talk about this book, which basically popularized the whole concept of disability studies. The correct answer is Erving Goffman. In fact, for Goffman, stigma is a general aspect of social life, and it complicates everyday communication because the stigmatized may be wary of engaging with those who do not share their stigma. Those without a certain stigma may disparage, overcompensate, or we can say feel pity, or attempt to ignore a stigmatized individual. So they are two classes apart, and obviously there is a break between the communication of these two classes. This is how Goffman presents the concept, the perception of stigma in our society. Our third question, dear friend, is his innovative application of semiotics to media text has earned him the title of Father of Television Studies. The critic here referred to is, in fact, he has written some very important books in the field of, we can say, television studies, which has become an integral part of cultural studies because TV studies is a part of popular culture. Okay, our options are Horace Newcomb, the second option is John Fisk, the third one is Raymond Williams, and the last one is Henry Jenkins. Dear friends, before going to the answer, please pay focus on all these names. They are very important critics, some of them obviously belonging to the field of television studies. The correct answer, father of television studies, the credit goes to John Fiske. John Fiske differentiates between mass culture, which is cultural products put out by a capitalist society, that is mass culture, and popular culture, the ways in which people use, abuse, and subvert these products to create their own meaning. So you can say mass culture and popular culture, they are not similar. They are almost contradictory to each other. Mass culture is the product of the market, product of the capitalist society to gain materialistic gains, while popular culture is appropriation, is the, we can say, use made by public and taking these mass product according to their own uses. Fiske also defines television as a bearer and a provoker of meaning and pleasure, while culture as the generation and circulation of variety of meaning and pleasure. So both these are almost similar, but they are also different. So this is the name of the book from which these ideas are taken, Television Culture. Remember the name of the book also. Our fourth question is, this term is used by John Fiske to describe the process by which disempowered television audiences, okay, those audiences who do not have power in their hands, they borrow elements from the dominant culture, use them to further their own, often oppositional interest. Almost the same thing which we have seen in the last question, that how they take the product of mass culture and make it, turn it, transform it into product of popular culture. Whether the name of term is corporation, or is it decorporation, or is it ex-corporation, or is it incorporation. In fact, only one term is legitimate, but the rest are just point one, and the term he uses is ex-corporation. Ex-corporation is the process by which audience take the values, elements from dominant culture and then use according to their own particular interest. This particular idea, ex-corporation, is developed by him in The Gening of America, which is the opening essay of his most influential book, Understanding Popular Culture, and believes this idea to be the central to the study of popular culture. What he says, in an industrialized world, the subordinated group has only the use of resources supplied to them by the dominant group. They don't have the access to all kind of, we can say, resources. And from these, we can say, supplied resources, they create their own subcultures and social commodities. Jeans is a very good example, which was actually given as a dress to be worn by laborers, but how you can see it has become a part of a popular culture. It has become an attire of public choice and molded according to them, and later it became a mass product, and later it shifted up towards the elite, we can say, product. Our fifth question is, which among these is authored by pioneering queer studies scholar Alexander Doty? Alexander Doty is one of those, we can say, scholars, thinkers who have popularized, who have pioneered this field of queer studies. Is it Making Things Perfectly Queer, Flaming Classics, Queering the Film Canon, Between Man, English Literature and Male Homosocial Desire? Is it first and second, first and third, second or third, or all of the above? Now, generally, the students, while attempting on paper, they think that if the option is all of the above, it must be the correct, but this is not so. Here only, Making Things Perfectly Queer and Flaming Classics, which is a study of Ian Fleming's James Bond, Queering the Film Canon. These two books are written by Alexander Doty. Dottie's scholarship, it is centered around gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender and feminist film theory. He wrote seminal books on queer film theory and gay culture, you can see. Now, Between Men, English literature and male homosocial desire. This is also a canonical text in queer studies written by Eve Kosofsky Sedgwick. She is one of the most important scholar of queer and feminist studies. Our sixth question is very important one. It is frequently asked in exams related with English literature. Who coined the famous phrase, "The medium is the message," proposing that media themselves, not the content they carry, should be the focus of study. So a critic, an analyst should focus on how media and which media is presenting what message. What is the message is not itself so important. Is it Clifford Gates or Pierre Bourdieu or Paul Gilroy? And the last option, Canadian Marshall McLuhan. So the right answer, as many of you I hope know, is Marshall McLuhan. He basically proposed Understanding Media. This is the famous book by Marshall McLuhan in which he presented this idea. But other three scholars are also important in the field of cultural studies. If we talk about Clifford Gates, he wrote the book The Interpretation of Cultures. Pierre Bourdieu, Habitus, the concept of habitus, the field of cultural production. And Paul Gilroy, Between Camps, Nation, Cultures and the Allure of Race. All these have contributed to the field of cultural studies. Our next question, dear friend, is the Black Atlantic can be defined on one level through a desire to transcend both the structures of the nation state and the constraint of ethnicity and national particularity. So the Black Atlantic, the writer is talking about this term and saying that it is beyond, it is meta-national discourse, which influential critic gave the theory of the Black Atlantic and thus reframing the cultural identity of those who descended from displaced Africans. Is it Paul Gilroy, Benedict Anderson, Kwame Anthony Appiah or Roland Robertson? All these have written works that deal with class, nation, race, but the Black Atlantic, it is given by Paul Gilroy. He is very, very famous, popular scholar of Black diaspora studies. And Black Atlantic, its subtitle is also very important, Modernity and Double Consciousness. It means a modern cultural political space that is not just British, African, American or Caribbean, but is rather a hybrid mix of all of these at once. Our next question, dear friend, is Another Boring Day in Paradise. Rock and Roll and the Empowerment of Everyday Life is a fascinating essay that traces the relationship between rock and roll and the postmodern America. So the essayist is it Stuart Hall or Lawrence Grossberg, or the third option Tony Bennett, and the last option Megan Morris? All these are once again key names in cultural studies, but the correct answer, dear friend, is Lawrence Grossberg. He basically wrote this essay and he is internationally recognized as a leading figure in cultural studies. He has written books like Under the Cover of Chaos, We All Want to Change the World, Cultural Studies in Future Tense, and Caught in the Crossfire, Dancing in Spite of Myself. All these are important contributions to the field of cultural studies, in which he has taken various issues, especially subculture, popular culture, counterculture, and has presented them as a very effective means of resistance. Second last question of the day. Which concept is defined as the network of technologies and institutions that allow a given culture to select, store, and process relevant data? Is it media networks? Is it cultural networks? Is it communication networks? Or is it discourse network? Dear friends, all these terms are used in communication theory in various respects. But if we talk about a culture where the dominant culture selects, stores and process only relevant to data, then we basically come to realize that it is none other than discourse networks, in which the dominant culture designs networking in such a manner that only selected data can be accessed by the mass. And the last question of the day is a theoretical approach to social theory, and it seeks to describe the complex interaction of agents in a system without regard to their status as human or non-humans. So basically it is a post-humanist theory in which there is no difference is made or considered between the human agency and the non-human agency. Is it actor network theory, or is it actant social theory, or is it nature culture theory, or last option actor actant theory? One of these is actually name of theory, and other three are coined terms, and the right answer is actor network theory. Actor network theory, it was proposed by Bruno Latour and Michel Calon, and in which human and non-human, which means technology, animal, architect, money, all they both are equivalent, they both are treated equally. And it is increasingly influential in all the fields, in fields of medical, transportation, and communication, and everything. It is deeply contested also, because human is almost, we can say, put on the margin or equal margin with the non-human. It provides a lens through which to view the role of technology in shaping the social processes. Okay friends, these were the 10 questions which I hope have brought you some recent trends, development and information in the field of literary and cultural theory studies. I hope it is beneficial for your preparation of the coming exam. Best of luck and keep supporting. Thank you friends.